Hello everyone and welcome to an ESO build video. So, today we're covering my Stamina hybrid sorcerer thing. And overall, I gotta say, I'm kind of happy with the improvements that we've made to this since last time I detailed this on YouTube. It now has a CP section. It just works better in general. It's been a lot of fun. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and hop in here. We are in a CP campaign, by the way, even though this is normally a non-CP build. And you can see stat pools are not bad at all. Our recovery, it looks really low for a stam build, but we'll get into that in a minute. You can see unbuffed overall. We're squishy. Good damage unbuffed. Things are looking good. So, from the stat page here, the thing we want to be looking at is the Mundastone is the lover. We'll get into why that is in a little bit. We are a werewolf, though, to be perfectly honest, I never use this, so you don't have to be a werewolf if you don't want to be. And we are using Bewitched Sugar Skulls as our food buff. And this, in my opinion, is very important to use Bewitched Sugar Skulls. It's not much more expensive. It's not too expensive. It's like 20k for a stack or something like that. It's not too expensive. So I would highly recommend getting these if you can. But, anywho, let's hop into these skills, since the skills, in my opinion, are the most fun part. And going over the skills, firstly, I know everyone's going to be like, dude, enough with the dizzying swing already. Enough. But for two-hander, dizzying swing's the best spammable. You got to use it. But to be fair, this build is not reliant on any particular weapon combination. So if you don't want to run two-hander as your main bar, you can always go dual wield and run flurry. You could always go bow and run snipe. I kid you not, Stam Sorc is not reliant on any particular weapon combination. So I'll go over some options for that in a little bit. But for now, we're running dizzying swings are spammable. Also as kind of like a pseudo stun in between Dawnbreaker. We are running, and this is the hybrid element, Endless Fury. Basically, this plays like having Implosion back when Sorcerer used to have that for anyone who played it back then. It was fun as hell having Implosion, and this mimics that pretty damn well. But it puts that nice little charge on them. They detonate for about 10,000 damage. And on top of that, as you can see, if an enemy dies from this ability within 5 seconds of you casting it, you restore more than double the mana you cast on this ability. This is actually a sustained skill, and it's a good kill steal, so it's worth using. I pop this in BGs on low health targets all the time, and you feel like a mag sorc just sniping kills from people. It's great. Next up is Bound Armaments, and this is kind of like our Spectral Bow, from the Nightblade. This is kind of our equivalent of that. You stack it up, you get 4 little daggers floating around you, and you release them one after the other in quick succession, dealing little bits of damage at once. Overall, the tooltip gets closer to about almost unbuffed. It's almost a 20k tooltip overall when you look at it, because there's 4 daggers almost hitting 5k damage each. Also, the passives. Now, this is the big reason we slot this skill. You do use this, but the main reason you slot is the passives. Light attack damage increased by 10%, which is nice. Max stam increased by 8%. Again, super nice. But on top of that, because we have this skill here, increases your health and stamina recovery by 20%. You want a Daedra skill on your bar somewhere. It's just too good not to have. It's too good not to have, in my opinion. For our second execute, and yes, we're running 2 executes on this build, we have Executioner. I love this skill. I use it all the time. Never going to drop it. At least not for two-hander builds. If you're running dual wield with Flurry, you're going to run Spin to Win here. The one with the execute modifier. So that's literally your 1-for-1 trade on the bar layout if you want to run dual wield instead. And lastly, we are running Dark Deal, which is why we can run a pitiful amount of stamina. So as you can see in CP, 21k max magicka. It's a big mag pool. It's a really big mag pool. But what it means is I basically, look at this. I'm not running out of stamina anytime soon. You can constantly weave this. You mix Streak in here and weave this. You have access to so much stats, it's ridiculous. And because we run tri-stat potions, you're constantly having almost a full mag pool. It's great. It is great. I really, really wish more classes had something like Dark Deal, because it's such a fun skill to use. So that is my main source of sustain. It's also a pretty damn big heal. I mean, a 10k tooltip for a sustain skill is pretty damn nice. I do proc this preemptively, by the way, before fights, because even though it does give you a good amount of stamina instantly, that 20 seconds of stam return is pretty nice too. And lastly, for our ultimate, we are running Dawnbreaker of Smiting. And 2 reasons for this. 1, it's good raw burst damage. Claps werewolves and vampires pretty damn good. But the reason I run this over, say, Onslaught, I just don't like Onslaught. I honestly just don't like Onslaught. That's the real reason. You can run Onslaught here. You could run the dual wield ultimate here if you're running dual wield main bar. You know, or if you really want to get to try some fun stuff out, you can also try this out. This can do some tremendous damage. I have tried it before. The reason I stopped using it was I found that people just roll dodge spam too much, and it was causing this to become a hard time for me to actually reliably land this. But I have seen Stamina Sorcerer use Overload before and to pretty good effect. And because we have Spell Pen to work with, this is actually not a bad choice. But so there's your ultimates: Dawnbreaker, Onslaught, the dual wield ultimate, or Power Overload. Those are your ultimates you can put here. Back bar, we have swapped from instead of using bow, which bow is still an option, but I've grown to prefer the Black Rose dual wield. And back bar, we are using Hurricane, which is your armor buff in general, also 10% movement speed buff. The downside of the skill, you have to refresh it every 15 seconds, so keep that in mind. You're going to be on your back bar a lot. Ball of Lightning. Now, the thing here, and the reason I'm not running Streak anymore, is because this and this are my stuns. However, if you are running dual wield, I would highly recommend swapping this out for Streak, so that way you have another more reliable stun than just Dawnbreaker. But the reason I'm running Ball of Lightning at the moment is that it's cheaper to spam in quick succession if you need it, and it absorbs ranged projectiles for a couple seconds if they were targeting you. It's really, really helpful to use. It's saved my butt a couple times. I've watched some snipes hit that orb instead of me, and it's been really helpful. However, like I said, if you prefer Streak, use Streak. Both skills are really good. The important thing is that you have this skill, regardless of Morph in your bar. Like, Sorcerers need this skill. It's so good. Resolving Vigor. I think everyone knows what this does, but as you can see, 20k unbuffed tooltip. Very, very nice. Quick Cloak. So this is our source of major evasion, major protection, thanks to Blade, Black Rose, Prison Dual Wield, and major expedition. This skill is... You're spamming this constantly. I'm constantly using this. On top of that, it also procs our back bar glyphs, which I don't remember what they are anymore. Disease and Poison, so you get some status effects coming off of that. You could also put, like, Frost here if you wanted to. You know, play around with the status effects, but, you know, it's going to proc your back bar glyphs, which is very nice. And last but not least is Crit Search. And this right here, this skill alone is the reason we do not care what weapon combination we run. Is because you don't need Rally. A lot of Stam tunes require Rally right now. And it gets frustrating sometimes, especially for like Stam Crow, where I can't try out other build combinations because I can't find a good source of major brutality outside of using potions. And this skill not only replaces your need for major brutality, it also gives us major sorcery, which is important for running our execute here. And to top it all off, it gives us, look at that tooltip on the healing. Every time I deal crit damage, heals me for 4.3k every second. It's super good. The duration on it's ridiculous, 33-second duration. So you only have to cast it every so often. And yeah, like this skill alone is what allows us to run any weapon combination we desire. So for back bar ultimate, you have 2 choices. You can either run Temporal Guard for the minor protection, which, by the way, you never cast this ultimate. Temporal Guard is so unreliable, I would never recommend casting this unless you are desperate. Or your second option is Greater Storm Atro for the, not only giving an ally Major Berserk, which is super helpful, it's also an AoE stun, which is nice. And to top it all off, it also procs your Danger Protection passives. So if you don't want to run Temporal Guard or you don't have access to it, put this on your back bar. It's more than worth using. And this one you can actually cast. It does damage. It gives you a thing that you can LOS around, which I know that's an asshole move, but you can pop this thing mid fight and kite around it during a fight. It has helped me a couple times. And it gives you the Daedric passives to top it all off, so it's definitely worth having. What else do we got in here? Oh, that's it for the skills, actually. Big shock. All right, so going into the gear. The gear has actually not changed since last time I updated this build, I don't think. I think I updated this in Dragonhold. But Troll King, Shacklebreaker, and New Moon Acolyte on the front bar. Back bar is a arena weapon that complements your build. So in my case, it is the Black Rose dual wield. I also run the Master Bow back here when I use bow. Maelstrom SMB is another not bad one. You can do some pretty good stuff with that. But we are running all impenetrable. We are running triglyphs on the big pieces, stam on the small. The weapons are all infused. 1 is stam recovery, 2 are weapon damage. And overall, gives us a very, very comfortable stat pool. We are squishy. Like, it's one of the reasons why I switched to dual wield is the mage protection helps the squishiness quite a bit. But you're fast, you deal a ton of burst damage, and overall, it's just a super fun build to play. It is super, super fun. It often catches people out just how bursty you are with all these abilities on the front bar here. So, as I said, I want to go over the weapon combinations, though. I want to talk about the alternative options you have for weapons for this one particular class. And my go-to favorite, I think, that I've seen another really, really good Stam Sorc work. I don't know if you guys have heard of Mystical, but his Stam Sorc runs, I don't know what his build is, but he runs dual wield, and he runs Rapid Strike, Whirling Blade. I don't know, he doesn't run this, I don't think, but I'm going to run this anyway. So you could run this bar layout instead, and throw a bow on the back bar and run Bombard if you ever wanted to. I believe that's how he's running it. Because basically the way you're running alternate weapons, okay, and this is what I want to talk about. When you run an alternate weapon setup besides 2H and dual wield, front bar's offense. Pick an offensive weapon. Pick a bow, pick a two-hander, pick dual wield. Hell, pick sword and board if you want to use power bash. But pick yourself your main offensive weapon, and then your back bar pick a utility weapon. And a utility weapon is dual wield for Blade Cloak, sword and board for blocking, or a whole host of other useful abilities. I don't have sword and board really leveled on this character, but, you know, you could go reverb, you could get low slash, you could get puncture, which I'm tempted to try this. I have just been way too lazy to level this skill line. So you can get a lot of useful things back here. And believe it or not, there is one other useful weapon that you can run on the back bar. I can't believe I'm going to tell you this, but I have seen Christopher ESO use this to great success, and it's running the Resto ultimate on the back bar. You can also get away using this ability here, using Combat Prayer with this build. You could get away with a Combat Prayer on the back bar for a utility weapon, and it's actually ridiculous. It's amazing. I love how customizable Stam Sorc is. So, if you ever want to toy around with the weapons, feel free to do so. The class is very, very versatile. It's not reliant on any particular weapon, so have fun, experiment with it. When in doubt, if you don't know what to use on what weapon, like what actual gear set to use on the back bar, buy potentates. If you don't know when in doubt, get potentates. 5% damage reduction. It's just flat out a really, really good set to run. So that would be my main recommendation if you do not have an arena set to put back there that you want to use. All right. I forgot. In a little bit of a different thing than last time I ran this build, nowadays I have a CP section, and it actually works. I cannot believe it actually works, but it does work. 66 Ironclad, 47 Resistance, 44 Thick-Skinned. I might change this later. 43 Hardy and Elemental Defender, 27 Quick Recovery, 56 Warlord, 1 into Siphoner because I had an extra point, didn't know where to put it. 75 Mooncalf, 37 Tenacity, 81 Tumbling, and 20 Shadow Ward. I might change this in the future, but I really roll dodge. I roll dodge a ton on this build. However, going into the future, if I ever tried sword and board out, especially, I would likely change these to 56 and 56 and adjust the other CPs around, as I found 56 tends to be a little bit better overall. On the blue, and the blue one's the weird one, okay? 27 into Bless for some raw heals, 81 Master at Arms for pure burst, 56, 54, 52. You can play around with this a bit. One thing you're going to want to play around with, depending on how you want to play, is how heavily do you want to rely on the Endless Fury Execute. The more you want to rely on that, or if you want to work on Power Overload, you're going to want to pull some CP out of Piercing and possibly out of Blessed and put some more into Spell Erosion. If you end up relying more heavily on Endless Fury, or if you end up using Power Overload. I actually did that too. Worked really well. The only reason I shifted my CP around was I was trying out a pure stam build for a little bit. Didn't have as much fun, so I went back. But I forgot to change the CP back. And honestly, when I started dueling with this CP setup, and I ended up liking it more, which is why I kept it. So just want to let you know, I'm not giving you like an inferior CP here, but if you try out Power Overload, I would highly recommend playing around with this and getting a little more into Spell Erosion. In non-CP, that's why we run Lover. You don't have to worry about it. All right, so the last thing we need to cover is race choice, and this is, in my opinion, this is probably the best race possible you can play for this particular build, and that is Dark Elf, and specifically because of this passive here, Rumination. Weapon and spell damage are increased. On top of that, we also get extra max stam and max magic, which gives us a big mag pool to play with our utility spells. It gives us a lot of spell damage to buff the hell out of this ability, because we're not running Pelinals. We're a hybrid that's not running Pelinals, so meaning our spell damage is independent of our weapon damage. But all things considered, if you pop this, go to your front bar. I do not have a thing to proc my Berserker Glyph, so unfortunately not going to get to see that. But our spell damage actually gets over 4k. We get over 4k spell damage with our Berserker Glyph up. So, I mean, overall, that's a pretty stat pool for spell damage. So it's pretty good. It gets that tooltip. It gets this tooltip nice and meaty. This thing hits pretty damn hard. I've actually gotten a couple good kills where some guy tried to run from me, and Bound Armaments plus this just killed the guy outright. So, anyways, guys, that is the build. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you have fun with it. As I said, if this is not your particular cup of tea, you know, maybe you don't like the hybrid, take the skill out, replace it with something. It does not, this build works really well. It's just a straight stam tune as well. You have a big mag pool, so you could get away with running like Restraining Prison or Rune Prison. You could get away running some other skills if you wanted to. If you don't, you can always put another stam skill here. The build's got plenty of sustain for it. I'm personally going to keep running Endless Fury because Endless Fury is fun as hell. And like I said, if you want to try out other weapon combinations, go for it. Stam Sorc is one of the only classes in the game where they're made by their weapon choices, but they're not reliant on any particular combination, allowing them probably some of the greatest versatility in the game. I really love it about this class. But like I said, have a good one, guys. We will be back next week with the Mag DK PvP build, I believe. Either that or Mag Blade. Not sure which one I want to do yet. I'm sure I'll decide Tuesday which one I'm going to record. But have a great week, guys. I will catch you all in the next one. Peace out.